So I am here and I'm super excited about this with Jamie and Larissa Miralles, and they have an amazing story to share about what is possible when it comes to growing an Amazon business, starting it, and I just can't wait to tell you how they've got to where they are today and kind of the things that they've learned, some highs and lows. And so first off, thank you so much, Jamie and Larissa, for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
Absolutely. So how did you first kind of discover the possibility of what's possible when it comes to selling on Amazon?
Well, it didn't start with Amazon, but I started selling on eBay and did fairly well. Just went and sourced products that I could profit on, didn't really have a niche or category that I was focused on. But over time, consumables did really well for us.
Mhm.
And then from there, just chose to stick with that niche and grew the product line or catalog pretty rapidly. We actually housed a lot of these products in our, well, we started out in an apartment, a townhome, a house, and then ultimately a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and then today prep centers. That was in 2009. And we self-fulfilled. For the most part, I kind of avoided FBA for a while until I started to just kind of got burnt out really running a warehouse and a large team and tested it out and I liked it. And so
Yeah.
I eventually scaled out of the warehouse to using just prep centers if needed, and then Amazon FBA. And in 2014, we were 100% FBA
Mhm.
at that point. So kind of late in the game on FBA, but at the same time, I actually enjoyed the warehouse for a time that we were doing it because I like building the culture, building the teams, and so on. So,
But you also met me.
yeah,
Who loved
I met her in
it.
2010. I actually started our business for so we were in business for about 14 years, and then I had met her the following year, and then so we've been working alongside each other since 2010, straight out of college actually.
Yes.
Mhm.
He was actually my first job. I started off as one of his marketing girls, but due to our proximity, I obviously got to pick his brain and learn so much about the business. So I learned the business inside and out. I think another big thing about moving away from the warehouse was some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, but it was a lot of the ability to have, the location independence and
Mhm.
knowing that we could be on our laptops and have prep centers fulfill or send stuff to FBA as well. So that was part of this story too.
Yeah, that's awesome and really good to hear. And it's also, it's similar to my story in the fact just that like I used to sell on eBay and when I heard Amazon would actually store my inventory and ship it out for me and take care of dealing with returns and things like that, I was like, wait a minute, that would totally free up my time to spend more time finding the right kind of inventory and do other aspects of my business. And so, when people ask me, do you do any merchant fulfilled or seller fulfilled? I'm like, no, I do everything FBA. I'm like, I don't want to do anything as much as I can push off my plate and have someone else do and pay them a fair wage for it, then I want to do that. And so it frees me up to make better money.
Mhm.
Focusing on the higher income, related the bigger money needle movers, if you will, for our
Mhm.
business. And um, how about with y'all and you're growing your Amazon business, and you mentioned that you kind of wanted some flexibility when it comes to the location where you're at. So how did your Amazon business grow into a place where you realized, why we're not actually like stuck to one living location? And where did that lead to?
Well, we were never really stuck. We love traveling.
Hmm.
And fortunately for us, I mean, we generated enough income throughout the years consistently because of the model that we exercise, that we did a fair amount of traveling. But then we really got serious in traveling. I think it was in 2016, was it, that we purchased a 40-foot motor coach and a Jeep to tow behind it and started traveling for 2 years. And then we settled down in Denver for a year to test that out, and then we sold the motor coach, and then we ended up buying two RVs after that
Because
and
we
traveled
missed
another
it.
2 years. full-time. And so those were full-time stints living in the RVs, but also traveling abroad during that course of time. And then when the pandemic hit, when the borders started getting really tight in terms of just travel is concerned, we settled down in Austin, Texas for a couple of years. And in fact, our Airstream is still over there. We live in Scottsdale, Arizona now.
Okay.
So we moved here last year. And then we had our first child last September. So now we're a little bit more stuck than, but we're fine. We're good.
Right.
That's my choice.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so, I think we never really thought we were necessarily nailed down to any specific location because obviously, with the means, you could do whatever you want. It's really about lifestyle design, right? I mean, you could either wait and think you can't do something or figure out how to do something and make it happen.
And I think it just opened our eyes to the possibility, given that everything is online now. It's the place to be. And given that we knew that we had our laptops, we knew that outsourcing existed, just choosing to go the third party route versus having our own warehouse really just opened our eyes to being able to do the motorhome and the international travel. I think a big part of what we wanted to do also was find out where we ultimately wanted to live. And given that, we loved exploring, we loved seeing things, it allowed us to see a lot of places. And we found ourselves coming back here multiple times. Never thought I'd be a desert girl, but here we are. And it's just, there's something special about Arizona in general that we have really liked so far.
That's awesome. So I know a few things that stood out to me in what both of you have been talking about is about having the right kind of mindset and not letting assumptions cause you to feel like you're not able to move or grow or and even think big. A lot of times, a lot of people just think really on a small scale because they don't even think it's possible to do anything bigger. What kind of things do you think have helped y'all with your mindsets to just be aware of what's even possible and then actually believe that it's possible for you?
Well, it's kind of awesome that you brought that up actually, because that's kind of what we've dedicated our lives to, especially myself. I mean, I turn 50 next year. I can't actually believe I'm saying that. But I got started early on in personal development because I was exposed very early in my childhood to network marketing. And network marketing is a tough business. I mean, you're face to face back then, when the internet wasn't so involved with network marketing. This was face to face, belly to belly, knock on doors marketing. And you had to experience a lot of rejection, through that business. And I had joined a lot of companies, had a lot of failures with some companies, a lot of successes with a lot of companies. And it was really the mindset work that got me through, those times, but also just realizing that the differences between one another, no matter what industry, really is the way that they think about the business. They think about themselves. They think about the environment that they're in. And it's really interesting because we've had an educational company where we've coached online sellers, and now we have an agency that we work with clients. And it's amazing that, at first contact, they think that we're a service provider or we're a consultant or we're a coach. And that they want to get right into the technical aspects of the problems or challenges that their business has. Not knowing that what usually has caused some of those problems or issues is the way that they think or don't think about the business, which starts with them and which starts in their mind as business owners or the lack of, being a business owner. So, that's something that we've dedicated our lives to is just continuous personal development.
Yeah.
Whether that be courses, books, even conversations, checking in with each other and having conversations. So where are we at with how we think about whatever? And we used to believe that there was a separation between life and business or personal and business, but in reality, how you act on one side is what you carry over on the other side. So there's really not much of a separation there. And that's just something that we work on constantly. And we never have ever thought or claimed that we knew it all. But at the same time, in order to be confident and know what's actually possible, a lot of times it's personal development or the mindset work that allows you to see the different perspectives of what's possible for you. And also being able to practice that, if you're in a position where you can influence other people or transfer knowledge to other people, seeing and practice how successful they can be with that same knowledge. And that's what's very interesting about mindset work is
Yeah.
you can take something that that you might take for granted, you might think comes natural to you or common sense, but once you transfer it to someone else, sometimes you need that validation that, oh, this is actually something unique. I've spent time learning, investing in, and I can actually transfer this knowledge and they can, see or find the same success that I have with it, sometimes greater even than what you've been able to take it to. But
Yeah, there's honestly nothing more rewarding than seeing other people succeed or like inspiring people to want to do more, be more, or experience more or whatever. I mean, for me personally, I have always just been interested in psychology. I graduated with a psychology degree and a communications degree. So just leadership in general has just naturally been a part of me. I didn't really know that until I actually experienced the business itself. But being able to, experience all the roles and eventually lead different teams within our company and coaching clients, especially that was honestly that was the most fun part of it all to me, just being able to Jamie and I have had many ups and downs over the years, and just being able to help people expedite that and teach them what works, what doesn't work, and then help coach them through those types of things. It's been so much fun. But 90% of that, if not more, really is their mindset around it and their belief around what they are capable of. And yeah, it's ingrained in us, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. The more I've helped coach people to sell on Amazon, I've come to discover that so many people think they just are missing a certain piece of information that will help them get to the next level. If I can just learn how to overcome this obstacle, or if I can just learn this certain strategy, it will take me to the next level. When like the most important thing is your mindset, and some people think of that as like hoo-ha stuff, but it's like it's legit. That's the technical term, hoo-ha. I don't know if that's even right or appropriate, but I know I read about over a decade ago this book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, and it opened my eyes up a lot to just the whole mindset reality, the growth mindset, the fixed mindset and stuff. Where would you send people? What would you suggest for them if they're like, you know what, maybe mindset is my stopping point, my the what's stopping me from really finding success? Where would you send them, or advice would you give them to get going on the mindset train?
I'd send them to a therapist first.
That's legit.
It is true.
You know why? Because whether people will admit it or not, we all have suffered or still suffering from trauma. And sometimes why somebody might think that mindset work is hoo-ha is because of some sort of trauma in the past. There's something where, oh, I invested in that, or I hired a coach, or I went and bought this course and it didn't work. So now they're traumatized, right? Because it doesn't matter if they spent $1 on that course or $10,000 on that course. Right now, all of a sudden they look at every investment and judge it by price versus value. But people don't understand that in order to realize the value, you have to have a mindset of being able to receive and interpret value and not judge it by the cost in price. And it doesn't matter, I'm not saying this because I have money or that it's easy for me to make $10,000 purchases. It's not. Like, I even have to do my due diligence and oftentimes will hesitate, in large investments. But a lot of times what holds people back and why they hesitate is because they have that unresolved trauma from an experience. And it may not even be directly related to an investment necessarily. It could be as something that, let's say, oh, I invested in this relationship and it didn't work out, and I put so much time and effort into it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. They'll look at the coach and it's like, okay, well, if I invest this much time and money into this coach and it doesn't work out, then all of a sudden I'm going to experience that trauma again. Now, that's not how they understand things, and that's not necessarily how they're processing things in their mind, but subconsciously, that's kind of how trauma creeps up on you and how it shows up in your day-to-day life, right? And so I would say that, people acknowledge and self-analyze themselves first and recognize what sort of trauma holds them back from pursuing personal development, or why would anybody ever believe that you're good enough just from the formal schooling that you've had or the experiences you've had at no matter what age you're at, versus, it's not even about one strategy, it's about multiple and numerous strategies that change over time. And that requires resources, and gathering knowledge. You can learn everything yourself. I used to be that guy that thought that I was the only one that, like, I knew it all. I had to be the one that chose the resource. I had to be the one who invested in this or that and learned on my own time, and or I know enough and that's all I need to know. And that's just ego. And that's another thing that people struggle with, right? Either it's pride or ego. They don't want to be found out that they're still investing in coaches or seeking help. And therapy is not something where you go to it after the fact. Sometimes,
Right.
yes, you do go to, to have to work on something. But sometimes it's to prevent something. And that's another thing that we're very big on is preventative,
Yes.
work, whether that's preventing from a sickness from happening or a disease from happening or preventing a financial, situation from happening. A lot of people are reactive nowadays and have always operated that way. And so, therapy is very important. A lot of people, they think it's all about business and that's all it takes to succeed. But, a lot of times you're bringing your personal feelings,
Hmm.
life, your physical being into something. And if all of those are not right, I mean, you're going to be going into a business unhealthy.
Yeah.
And then your business is going to be unhealthy. And then you're going to think you need a business coach, when in reality, maybe you need to work on your health. Maybe
Yeah.
it's your mental health. Maybe it's your physical health. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's your family life, your family health, right? Like there's so many other things that that people don't think about in business, because some of us are born in business. Like I was born into a family who all owned their own businesses. And so all I thought I had to do to be successful for probably the first 40 years of my life, to be honest, was to learn how to make money and how to make more of it.
Hmm.
But then when things started to suffer, I didn't understand why money couldn't fix it, right? Like I just thought, if I had the money, I'll just throw it at the problems and it'll all get fixed and resolved and stuff. But when they kept popping back up, no matter how much money I had, then I started to figure out, okay, this money is not the fix to all these problems.
Right.
It's a means, it's a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. And even without or a lack of, which I've been in many periods of my time when I had, even when people thought that we were doing well, there were times when we were so low that we were that close to bankruptcy, in some of those periods. But we had the skill set and the mindset to survive and come back out of those and prevent those things from happening. But a lot of people have to succumb to it because they don't invest in themselves, and they're busy pointing fingers at some external thing or things that they can't get past themselves.
Yeah. When you first said that someone needs to see a therapist as your first suggestion, I was like, yes, preach, because like my wife and I have always like wanted to normalize that. Like everybody probably needs some type of therapy to help you process stuff. There's so much craziness in the world that we live in, and there's a lot of ways that craziness impacts us, some for the good, some for not so good. And for us to kind of gain some skills and talk through and get some help with somebody who's a professional who knows what they're doing to help us to process that so that we can, take the positives that come from it, we can process and deal in a healthy way with the negatives so that we can, continue to grow and not just feel constantly attacked by our past or anything like that. And so that whole aspect of working on our mind thanks to a therapist, I am 100% buying that, and I'm really glad that you shared that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that about mindset. That's a huge piece of the puzzle that a lot of people ignore, a lot of people miss. And one aspect that I want to talk about before we close things up today is just kind of how much Amazon has changed. Amazon's always pivoting and changing things. How has your Amazon business continued to find success with all of the changes going on with Amazon these days?
I feel like when people refuse to change, that's when they realize a lot of problems and challenges. Now there's this bundling, suspensions. We honestly never even got into bundling. I know how lucrative it is because I know we've had clients that still do that to this day, but all of a sudden they're the ones dealing with those suspensions. I mean, I've seen account health accounts with their account health dashboards with numerous violations that they haven't been able to address or get removed or just have to let it expire. But historically, I mean, we've been on Amazon now for 15 years. Our dashboard has never had one violation that has lasted any more than a week.
Right.
So
Yeah.
on average, like in an entire month, I mean, really, in a 90-day period, we might have one violation, but it's just about being in the preventative mindset versus
Yep.
jumping on fads and saying, okay, let's do that. Because, I was watching another webinar the other day about somebody was offering like 40 hacks, Amazon hacks. And I was on that call for 2 hours. And every single one, they had a disclaimer saying that, oh, Amazon hasn't closed this out, but right now it works. And it's kind of like, and everybody was like, hooray, this is awesome. And they were selling a community program or a access or membership for $50 a month to join that community for more hacks. I'm thinking to myself, the reason why you need hacks is because you're not focusing on what you actually need to do, which is to sharpen and optimize your skill set around building a real business.
Yeah.
Right? Learn how to partner with business, learn the legalities, learn a specific category or industry or products. That is what business is all about. It's not about finding the next hack and the next hack and the next hack and then just milking that for 9 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then on to the next hack. And people are building businesses that way because they're not in an environment or in a circle where people of higher mindsets are talking about building real businesses that you can actually sell and exit. You can sell any business and treat it as it's your child, right? Like you're going to rate everybody should be raising their child so that they go out into the world, that they become of value to others, right?
Yes.
Other people are putting products out to just benefit themselves and to line their pockets. And then they have expiration dates and they don't even care. It's kind of like, well, if I make money on it for a year and a half, that's great. And it's kind of like, no, you're just going to have, why do you want to build a business and all you're doing is having to start all over and over again. That's what it comes down to.
And I was hoping Jamie was going to go that route just because it really is a real business. And no matter what stage you start at, it is a matter of thinking of it that way and setting it up that way. It's not to say that you can't go in, 2-3 years down the road and optimize things or change things. But when it comes to operations, leadership, the partnerships that he's talking about, there's so much that goes into it, but that is what allows you to create and set that foundation for your business so that you can grow and scale. And I think that also goes back to some of the mindset stuff that we were talking about, just because whether you are developing and growing yourself or developing and growing your team, that just expands beyond, your team and yourself. It ultimately goes out to the customers or any of the people, the brands that you serve or anything like that. So it's just a ripple effect of being able to help and change the world. That's how I see it, at least anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, Jamie, Larissa, thank you so much for sharing. There's been so much knowledge bombs. I don't even use that phrase, but I just did, that you shared. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today to share your story, share your wisdom. And we definitely want to have you guys on the podcast again, because there's a lot of different things we can go with these conversations and talk some more. And I look forward to having you back on the Full-Time FBA show sometime soon.
Yeah, we truly appreciate you reaching out and having us on here. I know we've been kind of hiding under a rock, but it's nice to have that effect on others, especially when it's been years since we've ever put ourselves out, put ourselves out there, since I put ourselves out there, that for somebody to uncover us and bring us back to light and stuff. But it's always great to share that knowledge and seeing how it can affect people, and hopefully positively, in a sense that they can impact others.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your heart to want to share. There's a lot of people who are like, no, if I share this, it'll mean less success for me because they're going to take my success. Like, if you think that way, that's just not how things work. So, but if you give to others, it actually comes back to you and helps you be more successful anyway. That's a whole nother episode we can do sometime. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
We appreciate you too.